All right. Hey, friends. Hope you're well. Hey, babe. Love you. You can stay there if you want. You know, one of the most amazing things about having kids in worship is that you get to see kids worshiping. It's fun. Don't ever despise the running round, you know. It's brilliant seeing them understand and engage with Jesus. Okay, I'm going to do this, which is always dangerous. Listen, one of the things that we are really clear about here is that we join with about 2.2 billion other people across the face of this planet in terms of understanding what it is that Easter means to Christians. I'm studying Orthodox theology at the moment as part of my PhD. It's super fun. I love it. Geek out on it. I don't agree with everything. Some of the stuff is weird. Some of the stuff is wacky. But I've got to tell you something. Pentecostalism, neo-charismatic people like us, like the way that we do Happy Clappy Church, we're actually quite close to their theology. And so what's really interesting is that part of what we do and what we celebrate as Christians is that we celebrate, I'm going to do like a little demonstration for you, the incarnation of Christ, which is him coming to earth as a human being. We celebrate his life on earth. We celebrate his death on a cross. We celebrate his resurrection and therefore the empty tomb. And then we celebrate his ascension to heaven. And then we celebrate when he's coming back. All right. You guys all right? So I just know that there's lots of people and you don't all know what on earth is going on. So I'm going to try and explain a little bit about what's going on. And so one of the things within the context of Christianity, which is what we all believe if you're part of this church, hopefully, because these tenets of Christianity are what makes us Christians, as well as an encounter with the person of Jesus Christ. You guys okay? Yeah. All right. So the whole purpose of Jesus' coming to earth, which, by the way, is historically verifiable. There's far more proof of Jesus' existence, his life, and his death than there is for Julius Caesar, okay? If you don't believe me, just Google it. Every historian across the face of the planet does not dispute the reality of Christ's existence on earth. What they do dispute is whether he was a son of God or not, but we'll come to that. And the reason why Jesus comes to earth as God and as man together, he is both God and man. It's a key principle of Christianity. He's both God and he is man. The reason why he does that is because his primary purpose is to restore all of our relationships back to God. And I don't know if you know this, and you can disagree, that's fine. Come talk to me and I'll prove it. Every one of us believes in God, a God, something. Because every one of us worships something. The question is, what are you worshiping? That's the question. Every one of us lays our lives at the feet of some dream. Every one of us is searching for something that is far bigger than us. The reason I know that is because you were designed to do that from the beginning of time. And every one of us looks to something in order that we can aspire towards it and therefore become like it. You guys alive? So praise God, Dwayne is alive. So the question that we've got is this. What are you aspiring towards? In other words, what are you worshiping? And is it good for you or is it not? Okay? That's the question we're asking. Because for Christians, we believe that foundationally we are looking towards Jesus Christ, his incarnation, his coming on earth, his life, his death, his resurrection, his going to heaven, and his coming back again as our primary example of what it is to be human beings. The question is, if you're not looking at him, what are you looking at? That's the question. And by the way, there's no judgment. I'm just asking you the question. I'm not saying you've got to believe something or we enforce belief here. There's nothing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we have decided to focus on Jesus Christ as the epitome of what it is like to be a human being in order that we can become like him. My question is, for all of us in this room is what takes our attention and our worship, and what are we becoming like? That's the question. At the moment, we're trying to sell our house in Leicestershire so that we can move to Essex. We're Essex people, peace. We love it. We're from Southend. Anyone from Southend? Rock and roll, friends. Southend on Sea. And we're coming home, just not quite home yet, you know. We've got to sell our house in Leicestershire. We have to, otherwise, you know, can't afford it anywhere, you know, especially down here. My gosh, it's insane. But we just had someone come view our house. We were like, God, this is it. You know, a declaration of faith. This is it. And the feedback we got was this: you need new bathrooms. She said no to our house. And in this moment, right, we talked about, literally this was yesterday, we got the phone call. In this moment, we have a choice. Jess, our family. Do we focus on the disappointment of the circumstantial nature of our lives in this moment? Or do we choose to say, Jesus, you are king above every circumstance, and instead of allowing my life to be defined by what people have done to me, I get to allow my life to be defined by what you have already done? So that's the question for me. I have to ask the question, am I being defined by the war in Iran, which Donald Trump selfishly invaded and minimized my chances of getting my house sale? Or am I actually looking towards God and believing him for something more? All right. You know, like, it's really funny looking out on faces, because some people are like, yes, and some people are like... But the reason why Jesus came specifically is so that everybody here, including me, can view what it is truly like to be a human being, loving, living in peace, living in the shalom, the peace of heaven, not being defined by circumstances that surround us. And then his whole life was dedicated to that. Jesus' whole life, we know from the Gospels, we know from Paul's writings, we also know from many extra biblical writings. If you want to look up a guy called Josephus, he was a Jewish historian. He tracked the life of Jesus in part. If you would like to have a list of books that are not in the Bible, but are wisdom books, they're not canonical, don't worry, like they're not like scripture, but they inform what we know, come get me and I'll tell you about them. But his life, his whole life, was specifically about bringing people he met into the kingdom of peace. The Jewish people at the time were overwhelmed by having been in exile for hundreds and hundreds of years and had the Romans dominating their cultural sphere of influence. And Jesus came and said, peace, peace, peace. Hey, listen to me. If you don't know what peace is, today is the day. Today is the day. Because for many of us, we live our lives on the nervous energy of anxiety. But Jesus comes to bring you peace. Sometimes you got to lay this thing down and go for a walk. Go out into nature and say, God, if you're there, encounter me. Because the whole of Jesus' life, all of it, was about delivering people from demonic enslavement. By the way, just so you guys know, we believe in demons and the devil. We believe in a spiritual world that exists, not as separate to this world, but as a reality within it. You are a triune being. You have a body, which is your physical self. You have a soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And you have a spirit, which is your eternal self. You're 3 in 1. Who else is 3 in 1? God. Because he created you in his image. And in Jesus' life, he came and he delivered the people from demons. He healed them of their sickness. He absolutely and utterly obliterated anxiety and depression in their lives in order to restore them to who they were originally created to be, which is people who reflect God. And I've got really good news, Evangelion, from those who last time. Doesn't matter. Greek word for gospel. I've got really good news for you that even if you don't believe in God yet, even if you don't believe in Jesus yet, you are still created in his image. You still reflect God in a significant proportion of what you do. The question is, how much of it is marred by sin that separates us from him? All right. Because the purpose of Jesus and his encounters with people when he was alive was to ensure not that they were judged or condemned. What did he say? I have not come to condemn the world. But he came in order to say this: you are so much better than that. You are designed and created with a specific destiny in mind that if only you wouldn't consistently try and strive to control it, you would be able to focus, worship God, and move in supernatural power to a destiny that you could not believe even if you were told. Only if you allow him into your life. And then in his death, then when he died, it was the most torturous and tragic thing you could ever imagine. Anyone heard of Jordan Peterson? Okay, so a guy called Jordan Peterson. I don't agree with his political views in the slightest, but he does an incredible, he's a clinical psychiatrist actually, and he does this incredible psychosomatic development through Genesis and Exodus. It is amazing, just absolutely brilliant. But one of the things that he talks about is that this is the archetypal tragedy, that Jesus lived a perfect life. He was the innocent lamb. Remember what I was saying earlier on? He was the innocent lamb. And what happened is that he, in the end, took a step into tragedy because he himself was abandoned and betrayed by his friends, by his people, by the authorities who actually were meant to be looking after him. He was completely innocent. There was no guilt found in him. Even Pilate said, I wash my hands of this situation, and actually abdicated his responsibility to save Jesus' life. And so what happened, by the way, Pontius Pilate was the Roman governor at the time, if you didn't know that. And so what happened is that in his life, he was innocent. In his death, he was innocent, but completely betrayed. And on top of that, he was killed. And this is verifiably, historically proven. Just want to say it again. I'm not debating here, I'm telling you. You can debate with me about his divinity, not about his existence. And when he died on the cross, they put nails in his wrists and between his ankles. And they put a crown of thorns on his head. And on the cross, you don't die of anything of your wounds. You die of asphyxiation because you can't keep pushing up on the nails that cause you agony as you die. The reason why the Romans did this is because it was the most humiliating and most torturous way that you could kill someone. And on the cross, Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Jesus is our archetypal reality of humanity. Because even in the very situations that can turn us to bitterness, that can turn us back to chaos, that can turn us to resentment, he chose to allow peace to be demonstrated in his life and pray for those who he was being murdered by. Hey, listen to me. Whatever you think about him, he's a good example about how to live your life. And then, in his resurrection, the tomb was empty. In his resurrection, life had to triumph over death. Why? Because death is only the beginning of the realities of eternity. I don't know if you know where you're going to go when you die. I don't know whether you believe that you're going to go right in the ground like secular humanist Richard Dawkins, or if you believe that you're going to sort of float away with the spirit somewhere, or if you believe that you're going to join again with the universal experience of the stars. I don't know what you believe, but here is what Christians believe. We believe that you are united with God in heaven, and over the course of eternity, become more and more like him until you have transformed into his likeness. But the only way to do that is if you accept that this gateway in Jesus' death and resurrection is, number one, real, but also, number two, sets you free. If you don't believe that, no worries. But the realities of what heaven can look like and transformation can look like, you can't partake of. Because there's no facility for you to engage with God outside of Jesus. Can I tell you why? When I've got my telescope, right, and I'm looking at Jupiter, I'm like, man, that biggest gas giant in our solar system, it's amazing. It's got a tropical rainstorm the size of North America. It's going to go on forever and ever. Its gravitational pull can kill me in 0.2 milliseconds because it will crush me as soon as I get anywhere near it. And then I put my telescope away, and I get in my little spaceship, and I make my way closer to Jupiter, and the reality becomes a lot different. Because you know what we want to do sometimes? We want to see God. We want to see our lives through a telescope. Keep it at arm's length. I'll look at it because it's cool. That isn't Christianity. Christianity is, I'm going to approach boldly the throne of grace and work out my faith in fear and trembling in order that I could become one with this being, this God who transforms me into his likeness. Most of us in this room, Christians or not, are being transformed into the likeness of something that is not God. We are being transformed into something that we want to be God sometimes. But here's the deal, friends, listen. If you are creating God in your image, he is not God. In other words, if you say, God, you could occupy the space in my life where I feel good when I come to church. Or if you say, God, you could occupy the space in my life when I really need you. God, I will turn to pray for you for a financial miracle, but for the rest of the time, I'll leave you there. That means that you're creating an idol. You're not worshiping God. You're creating God as you want him to be, which is foundationally not okay. Because God is above and beyond what you can understand or imagine. The great question is, will you submit to him? Will you come under the lordship of Jesus Christ? Or will you go about your own journey in your own way? That's the question before us. And then in his ascension to heaven, where he goes up on the clouds, can I geek out with you for 1 minute? 1 minute? All right, quick. Ancient Canaanite mythology. You guys don't care. Really quickly. Baal, we call him in terms of English. Chief God. He is the storm cloud rider. That's what they know him as. What did Jesus go up to heaven in? Why? Why? Because every other god, this is one example, I can go through a whole list of them. Every other god represented on earth by men who created God in their image is absolutely and utterly dominated by Jesus Christ, who is the real God and ascends to heaven as a storm rider that Baal could never be. Are you guys all right? Yes. What I'm saying to you is this, is that whatever man can create, Jesus is the ultimate reflection of true reality. I can tell you about the Nephilim ritual soon, but whatever man can create in his image, whatever it looks like, my next car, my next job, my next house, my family, my divorce, my pornography, whatever it is that you create as a God in your life, Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry, Jesus Christ can absolutely set you free from the bondage that you placed yourself in. The reason why I'm excited about this is because I know it's true. You heard 2, but you've seen 10 people who know it's true. The question for you, everybody in here, is this. If it's true for them, why can't it be true for you? What is that? What's stopping that thing? And you know, Jesus is coming back. When I talk to like my secular humanist friends about this, the idea that there is a intangible presence in heaven that then comes back to earth and claims the earth is just such a bizarre thing for them. But it's the very clear last step in the journey of reality for Jesus to come and reclaim what is rightfully his, which is the whole of creation. And I've got to tell you that Jesus is reaching out to claim you. He is. He's been following you around your whole life, knocking on your door. The question is did you recognize it was him or not? That's the question. Did you put it down to something else? Did you put down how you felt in worship today as a psychological experience? Your psyche playing tricks on you, everyone singing. Did you put it down to that? Or would you be willing to say, maybe, Italian, maybe there is a God who's knocking on my door, maybe. And then would you take the next step and say, if there is maybe a God knocking on my door, will you let him encounter you? Will you let him speak to you? Will you go out, go to your bedroom or the woods? What's around here? The Wick. Is that a fun place to go? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, Chelmsford. I don't know, wherever. And go and say to him, hey, God, if you're there, help me. I've got to tell you, I did that. And he did it for me. I'm not standing here telling you something that I don't believe. I'm telling you something that I hold to with everything in my being. This is what C.S. Lewis writes in Mere Christianity. If you don't know C.S. Lewis, he's a really amazing literary genius, really. He wrote The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe of the Narnia series, but this is what he says in one of his books called Mere Christianity. I'm trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about Jesus. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with the man who says he is the poached egg, or else he will be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool. You can spit on him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. This Easter, Christians across the world celebrate not a good moral teacher, not a good example of a human being, although he was both those things. Christians across the globe don't celebrate Jesus as someone who is just a man. Christians across the globe celebrate Jesus Christ as the divine Son of God. And every Christian across the globe invites those who don't believe into that incredible journey. I'm done. Will you stand?